Karen sat at table 7, my table 7, snapping her fingers at Maria, my head waitress. "Sweetie, this wine is warm. Get me something cold. And make it quick." Her voice cut through the elegant atmosphere like nails on glass. Maria's face flushed red, but she nodded politely. "Of course, ma'am." I watched from across the room, my hands clenched so tight my nails drew blood. Karen rolled her eyes when Maria walked away. "These people," she said loudly to her friend, "you have to talk to them like children or they just don't get it. My name is Nadia. I'm 31 years old. Last night," Karen told my staff, "the owner personally gave her our V.I.P. table." She bragged, she laughed. She spoke to my employees like they were nothing. I said nothing. I let the waiter bring drinks. Then I introduced myself as the owner of the restaurant. The restaurant was alive last night. Every table full, wine glasses catching the warm light, conversations flowing like music. From the outside, everything looked perfect. Beautiful people in beautiful clothes, living beautiful lives. But inside my chest, something was tightening. Something old and ugly and familiar was crawling up from the pit of my stomach. The shame hit me like a physical blow. Not shame for Maria, shame for the girl I used to be. The girl Karen used to destroy with those same words, that same tone, that same cruel certainty that she was better than everyone else. Before I tell you what happened next, like this video, subscribe, and comment where you're watching from, because some wounds don't heal quietly. You see, Karen and I have history. Ugly, painful history that I thought I'd buried so deep, it could never hurt me again. But there she was, in my restaurant, treating my staff the way she used to treat me when I was nobody. When I was nothing. 10 years ago, I was broke. Not just poor, completely, utterly broken. I worked 3 jobs just to keep a roof over my head. I cleaned offices at night, served coffee in the morning, and bagged groceries in the afternoon. Karen was my supervisor at the cleaning company. She made my life hell. "You'll never amount to anything," she'd say when I mentioned wanting to go back to school. "People like you don't get to dream big. Learn your place." She'd laugh that same cruel laugh I heard last night and tell the other workers how pathetic I was. How I thought I was special when I was just another girl who didn't know her place in the world. I was invisible back then. Completely invisible. I'd walk into rooms and people would look right through me. Karen made sure of that. She'd interrupt me when I spoke, dismiss my ideas before I could finish them, and remind everyone within earshot that I was just the girl who emptied their trash cans. The worst part? I believed her. I started seeing myself through her eyes, worthless, stupid, destined for nothing. I'd go home to my tiny apartment with its broken heater and cry myself to sleep, wondering if she was right, if I really was nothing. But seeing her again last night in my restaurant, treating my people the way she treated me, it didn't just hurt. It ignited something inside me. A fire I thought had died years ago. So I stayed seated. I watched. I let her dig her own grave. Karen ordered the most expensive bottle of wine on our menu, a 1,998 Bordeaux, that costs more than most people make in a week. She ordered the chef's tasting menu for the table. She demanded the best of everything, speaking to my staff like they were servants in her personal kingdom. "The owner owes me this," she announced loudly enough for half the restaurant to hear. "I know people. Important people. This is how business works." She gestured dismissively at Maria. "People like you should listen when I talk. I could have you fired with one phone call." My staff looked mortified. These are good people, hard-working, kind people who deserve respect. Watching Karen tear them down the way she once tore me down made my blood boil. But I stayed quiet. I waited. Maria's hands shook as she poured the wine. Karen didn't even acknowledge her. Just continued her loud conversation about how she knew the owner personally, and how these little people needed to learn their place. The irony was suffocating. If you've ever been talked down to by someone, subscribe, and comment where you're watching from. My chest felt like it was going to explode. Every word out of Karen's mouth was a knife twisting in old wounds. But I've learned something in the years since I was that broken girl cleaning offices. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is wait for the perfect moment. Finally, I stood up. Slowly, calmly. The entire restaurant seemed to hold its breath as I walked across the room to table 7. Karen didn't even look at me at first, probably assumed I was just another servant coming to refill her water glass. "Excuse me," I said quietly. My voice was steady, controlled. "I'm Nadia Rodriguez. I'm the owner of this restaurant." I let those words hang in the air like smoke. I didn't shout them. I didn't dramatic pause or gesture wildly. I just stated a simple fact and watched Karen's world collapse around her. The color drained from her face so fast I thought she might faint. Her wine glass froze halfway to her lips. Her friend's mouth dropped open. The conversations at nearby tables stopped as people turned to stare. Karen tried to laugh it off. "Oh, that's funny. Very funny." But her voice cracked on the last word. Her hands were shaking now the same way Maria's had been shaking moments before. I reached into my purse and pulled out my business card. Set it gently on the table in front of her. "This is my restaurant. These are my employees. And that VIP table you claimed the owner gave you? I've never seen you before in my life." The silence was deafening. You could hear the kitchen fans humming, the soft clink of silverware from the other side of the room. But at table 7, the world had stopped spinning. Karen's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. I didn't know. I thought. You thought wrong." My voice was ice cold now. All the pain and anger of those years crystallized into perfect, devastating calm. "Your VIP status is revoked. Your bill stands as charged. And no, I won't be accepting any apologies tonight." Karen tried to speak again, but I held up my hand. "The way you spoke to my staff tonight, calling them these people, snapping your fingers like they're animals, that tells me everything I need to know about who you still are. Some things never change. If you've ever been talked down to by someone who thought they owned you, like this video, subscribe, and comment where you're watching from." I turned to Maria, who was standing frozen by the wall. "Maria, please prepare Miss Karen's check. She'll be leaving as soon as possible." Then I looked back at Karen, who had shrunk into her chair like she was trying to disappear. "Enjoy your expensive wine. It's the last one you'll drink here." I walked away without another word. Didn't wait for her response. Didn't stick around for the drama. I'd said what needed to be said. Justice doesn't always require an audience. 20 minutes later, Maria came to find me in my office. "She left," she said quietly. "Paid the full bill without a word." She looked broken. Broken. The same way she'd left me feeling all those years ago. I should have felt vindicated, triumphant even. But mostly, I just felt tired. Tired of carrying that pain. Tired of letting her voice echo in my head all these years. "Are you okay?" Maria asked. That was intense. I nodded. "Yeah, I'm okay. Better than okay, actually." And I was. For the first time in years, that tight feeling in my chest was gone. The shame that had lived there since I was 21. Cleaning Karen's office while she reminded me how worthless I was, it was finally quiet. After Maria left, I sat alone in my office and thought about power. Real power doesn't shout. It doesn't need to humiliate or destroy. It just stands where it belongs and refuses to be moved. Karen taught me that in her own twisted way. She showed me what powerlessness looked like by grinding my face in it for 2 years. And last night, I showed her what real power looks like: quiet, confident, unshakable. The girl who used to cry in that broken-down apartment would be proud. She'd be amazed to see where we ended up, how we turned all that pain into something beautiful. This restaurant isn't just my business, it's proof that Karen was wrong about everything. That I wasn't nothing. That I didn't need to know my place because I was capable of making my own place. I thought about all the people like Karen out there. People who build themselves up by tearing others down. People who mistake cruelty for strength. Who think power comes from making others feel small. They're everywhere, in offices, in schools, in families, poisoning the air with their casual cruelty, convinced they're somehow superior. But here's what I learned last night. The people who truly have power don't need to prove it by destroying others. They prove it by building something beautiful, by lifting others up, by refusing to let the Karens of the world define who they are or what they're worth. My staff thanked me quietly as they left last night. Not for the drama, but for standing up for them. For showing them that their dignity matters. For proving that respect isn't something you have to beg for, it's something you demand by simply knowing your worth. I don't know where Karen is today. I don't know if she learned anything from last night or if she's somewhere else, treating someone else the way she treated me. I hope she learned. I hope she looked in the mirror this morning and realized that cruelty isn't strength, that tearing others down doesn't build you up. But honestly, that's not my responsibility anymore. My responsibility is to this restaurant, to my staff, to the life I've built from the ashes of who I used to be. Karen doesn't get to live in my head anymore. She doesn't get to define my worth or limit my dreams. Last night wasn't about revenge, not really. It was about healing. About finally, after all these years, standing in the place she said I'd never reach, and really knowing that I belong here. That I earned this. That every cruel word she threw at me was wrong. The broken girl who cleaned her office is gone. In her place stands a woman who owns her own restaurant, who employs good people, who creates beautiful experiences for others. A woman who knows her worth isn't determined by what others think of her. That's the real victory. Not Karen's embarrassment or shock, but my own peace, my own certainty, my own unshakable knowledge that I am enough, that I always was enough, that her voice in my head was never the truth. If you've ever been talked down to by someone who thought they owned you, like this video, subscribe, and comment where you're watching from. Sometimes revenge is just standing where they said you never would. Sometimes healing isn't about forgiveness or moving on or letting go. Sometimes it's about proving to yourself more than anyone else that they were wrong about you, that their limitations aren't your limitations, that their small view of the world doesn't have to be yours. My name is Nadia Rodriguez. I'm 31 years old. I own a restaurant. And last night, I finally stopped being afraid of the girl I used to be.